Starring, amongst others, Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Cate Blanchett, Idris Elba, Jeff Goldblum, Tessa Thompson, Carl Urban, Mark Ruffalo, and Anthony Hopkins. Directed by Taika Waititi, off of a script, but which is really fun to say. Hope I'm saying it right. Taika Waititi. Off of a screenplay by Eric Pearson. This is my review for Thor Ragnarok.
What were you the god of again?
Thor Ragnarok returns us to the planet of Asgard, and things are about to go pretty bad there. There's a new villain on the way named Hela. Loki is still impersonating Odin. And Thor, well, he's in a bit of trouble himself as he's dumped on the planet of Sakaar, where he's forced to take part in gladiatorial combat. This is a fun movie. Comedy-wise, this is up there with Guardians 2. The jokes come thick and fast. Like, there's barely a scene that goes by without a joke or a visual gag of some kind. And most of the jokes here work well. Chris Hemsworth's very good at comedy. He's very good at speaking the jokes, he's very good at doing the physical comedy, and it's nice to see this more lighter side of Thor. And it's also nice to see everybody else having fun around him. Tom Hiddleston gets some funny moments as Loki. Mark Ruffalo gets some great moments as Bruce Banner and Hulk, both of which are comedic as well. Tessa Thompson doesn't get so much of the comedy to do, but she's definitely the coolest person in this movie, and she interacts with everybody extremely well. In fact, I do think she is my favourite character in this. Carl Urban, who I always think is amazing, and I always think is a little bit underrated, he gives a great performance too. Cate Blanchett's clearly having great fun playing Hela, even though she kind of just chews the scenery a little bit, but it's not really her fault, it's that kind of movie. Which is also a bit of a problem that it's that kind of movie, because the issue I have with Thor Ragnarok is also the reason I love it so much. As I say, the comedy is constant, it's consistent, and it's very, very funny, but it's used so much that anything dramatic that happens in this movie doesn't have any weight to it. The whole thing revolves around the planet Asgard and something that could end up destroying it. But I didn't feel any kind of resonance with that whatsoever, because all it seemed to be interested in is telling more and more jokes. Director Taika Waititi knows his comedy. He knows how to perform it, he knows how to direct it, I think he knows how to write it. I'm sure he's written some of the comedy stuff he's done as well. No, 100% without checking. But the point is that this guy knows how to do comedy. Like Hunt for the Wilder People, brilliant film, please check it out. What We Do in the Shadows is constantly hilarious, and I want that sequel, which, by the way, keep the title for the sequel, Werewolves. But watch these two films if you like this guy's comedy, because he's a very, very, very funny man. I just feel like in Thor Ragnarok he needed somebody else, not necessarily directing with him, but somebody alongside him to say, right, let's just tone it down a bit just in these key moments, and sadly that didn't happen. And it also strangely doesn't seem to be that interested in telling the story of Asgard. The movie, a large part of the movie, all takes place on Sakaar, and it's fun, it's a fun place to visit. Jeff Goldblum, by the way, is amazing, but he's Jeff Goldblum, it doesn't need saying, but he's clearly having a great time playing the Grand Master here, and it rubs off on the screen extremely well. And there are loads of other fun characters that we get to meet on this planet too. Even Taika Waititi plays a character in this one, and he's arguably the funniest character in it. He's not in it a great deal, but when he is, he just has the ability to deliver lines in such a funny way that it just works for the sort of character that he plays. And visiting this planet is a great way to bring Hulk back into the fold. This is the best we've seen Hulk, visually and the way he acts. You've seen in the trailers he's learned to speak now, and there's a reason he has, it's explained. But this really seems to play on the dual personality between Bruce Banner and the Hulk a lot more than other movies have, and it's entirely welcome. If anything, after seeing this, I'm more convinced that Mark Ruffalo could easily carry a Hulk solo movie if they had the balls to eventually do it. And by the way, when I talk about the comedy, if you want to find out exactly what I'm talking about, because there's an example that I'm thinking of very clearly that illustrates that point, but it's a very, very spoiled point, so I'm going to talk about that after I give the score. So yeah, when I give the score, if you don't want to know anything that's going to happen in Thor, if you don't want to know a major plot point, just stop watching the video. If you've seen it, or if you don't care about spoilers, then yeah, what I'll explain after the score will highlight my point a little bit. Thor Ragnarok also seems like it's quite happy to give nods back to previous entries in the MCU. There's some great references to Loki and things that have happened to him and to Thor that are played for laughs here and played extremely well. But at the same time, it also seems to be trying to distance itself from the movies that have come before, and particularly when it comes to the Thor movies. Other characters that we've come to know and perhaps love in the Thor franchise are kind of given a short stick here. Idris Elba is in it a fair amount, but again, he was hardly in it a huge amount to begin with in the first two, but there are other characters that I'm thinking of that you'll know when you see the movie what I mean, but they don't really get much to do. And it's disappointing because Thor and all his warrior friends were kind of the core of the movies at some points. Like, they were all not necessarily large characters, but they were important. And here, those of them that are included feel like they're just included purely for the sake of it. Something I was worried about was Thor himself. From the trailers, it seemed like Thor was just going to be a sort of a doofy comedy character rather than the godlike character that we've seen Thor be. And while, yeah, sometimes it does lean a little bit too far towards that way, he does pull it back in the big moments when needed. But as I say, those big moments don't feel all that big. As I say, this is a big movie with some big moments that happen, but it just feels like a comedy. It doesn't feel like any of those big moments resonate in the way that they should. As for the villain of this, Cate Blanchett's Healer, she's fine. She's better than quite a lot of other Marvel villains that we've had. Like, her motivations make sense. Why she acts the way she does makes sense within the narrative. But again, it doesn't really feel like she's the focus as much as she should be. While, yeah, she's an intimidating force and she's pretty good in the role, Healer just kind of amounts to nothing because, much like everything else on Asgard, it feels like an afterthought. It feels like the main movie is meant to be set on Sakaar on the prison planet, and they've gone, oh, we do need to kind of include some of Asgard, so yeah, we'll keep cutting back to this every now and then, and we'll, go back there for the final act. Asgard and the problems that people are facing there just aren't brought to the forefront anywhere near as much as they should be. But this was fun. It was definitely a fun movie. I laughed a lot throughout this. In fact, the whole of the cinema, the whole screen I was in, was laughing pretty much constantly. As I say, these jokes come thick and fast, and yeah, they cross the line, they go on a little bit too much, they intrude on scenes when they shouldn't, but at least the jokes are funny. I can't think of any really, apart from one kind of crude hammer joke that just seemed a bit weird, that didn't land. Despite my issues with it though, this is still a damn sight better than Thor the Dark World. I haven't seen the original Thor for quite some time, but I think it's at least on par with that one. As for where it sits with the Marvel movies released this year, or the MCU movies released this year, I still think Guardians of the Galaxy is better, and Spider-Man was better than both of them. I'm going to give Thor Ragnarok a 7 out of 10. So the spoiler stuff. And just to reiterate, this is proper spoilers. This isn't just light spoilers, this is full-on movie-ruining spoilers that I'm going to talk about now. So just to reiterate, if you haven't seen Thor, if you do care about getting spoiled, leave. Leave now, be gone. So, the ending of this one has Asgard completely destroyed. Like, gone. Nothing left. It's gone full-on Krypton. Into pieces. And that should be a massive, massive moment. Like, it should affect almost every single one of these characters at the end. In ways that you can't even comprehend. This is their planet. Their home. It's just been completely destroyed. And it's used for a punchline. That's the problem I have with Thor Ragnarok. It's why it only got a 7. Because it doesn't know when to stop. It doesn't know when to let moments actually be dramatic and to resonate. And it just always goes for the joke. So in this one, I can't remember the exact line, but it's Taika Waititi's character, the rock guy, who I loved in this one, apart from in this one moment, where he makes a gag about the foundations of Asgard and how it'll be fine, and then it just disintegrates into nothing, and he follows it up with, oh no, the foundations are screwed, or something to that effect. And yeah, people laughed at the joke, but we're not meant to be laughing in that moment. We're meant to be, oh shit, Asgard's gone. Asgard's obliterated. But yeah, no, it's just used for a joke, and there's a lot of moments in this where that happens. There's another moment with Thor, with Mark Ruffalo's character Bruce Banner, when he jumps into battle, and it should be this amazing moment where Bruce Banner transforms to Hulk mid-jump and then joins the fight, but instead he just hits the ground, and yeah, again, it's funny, but that should have been an epic moment that was just undercut by yet another joke. Other people may like it. I liked it to a degree. I did enjoy this movie quite a lot. I do want to watch it again already, but yeah, it just, for me, it didn't get the balance right. It just fell too far into comedy when there should have been so much more for drama, so much more emotions on display here, rather than just, let's play this for laughs. And also other questions I have, is Bruce Banner now permanently Hulk? Can he not turn back? Because that was hinted at, but once he'd done it, there was no mention of it again. Like, there was nothing from Thor at all to be like, oh shit, he can't turn back. So, I don't know. That's not really a criticism at all, that's just me being curious. Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments about that one. But yeah, spoiler stuff. Over. Have you seen Thor Ragnarok? If so, what did you think? Do you agree with me that the comedy was a little bit too much, or were you quite happy with the constant run of jokes? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, hit like. You can also hit subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at JoePJulians. You don't have to do any of these things. It would just be quite nice. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.